The Mahabharata. It's one of the greatest stories ever told, right? A truly massive epic, a cultural touchstone for literally billions of people. But here's the thing that's been bugging historians and archaeologists for ages. Beyond all the incredible wisdom and the epic battles, is any of it actually true? So yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Are we talking about an epic story or a real war that happened maybe 5,000 years ago? A conflict that could have shaped the course of ancient India? That's what we're going to dig into today. We're going to follow the clues, you and me, looking at the text itself, what's buried in the ground, and even what's written in the stars, to see if we can piece together this incredible puzzle. Okay, before we go any further, let's get one thing straight. When we talk about something being mythological, it doesn't automatically mean fake or made up. That's a really modern way of looking at it. Think of it this way. For ancient storytellers, myth was a powerful tool, a way to wrap up deep spiritual truths and big life lessons in a compelling story. So the question isn't just a simple yes or no, history or myth. The real mystery is, could it be both? All right, so where do we even begin? Well, let's start with the book itself. You'd think if this massive war actually happened, the story would have to be grounded in a real place, right? It would need a map. And what's so fascinating is that when you look closely at the Mahabharata, that's exactly what you find. I mean, just look at this. The level of geographic detail is, honestly, it's pretty mind-blowing. The places mentioned in the epic, kingdoms like Kuru, Gandhara, Magadha, these aren't some made-up fantasy lands. Nope. You can literally map them onto real-world locations in modern India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. It feels less like fiction and more like someone describing the world they actually lived in. And it doesn't stop with the geography. The text goes into incredible detail about the people, too. It lays out this huge, sprawling family tree for the Kuru dynasty, naming more than 50 ancestors. Now, that's weird for a simple myth, you know? It's not just a king and a queen. This reads way more like a historical record, like someone was trying really, really hard to make sure future generations remembered this specific family line. So the book gives us a map and a family tree. That's a great start. But what happens when we put down the text and pick up a shovel? If these places were real, then surely there has to be something left, right? Some physical clue buried under the ground. Well, that's exactly what archaeologists have been searching for. And a key player in this whole quest was an archaeologist named B.B. Lal. Back in the 1950s, he spearheaded these really ambitious digs at some of the most important sites from the epic, places like Hastinapur, which was supposed to be the capital of the Kuru kingdom. He was basically looking for that one piece of solid physical evidence that could connect the story to reality. So did he find anything? Oh yeah. At Hastinapur and a bunch of other sites, his team started finding this very specific, very distinct type of pottery. It's called painted grayware. And this is a huge deal. Why? Because this pottery acts like a cultural fingerprint. It consistently dates back to a specific period, around 1200 to 800 BCE. And here's the kicker. It shows up at pretty much all the major Mahabharata locations. It's a physical thread tying all these legendary places together. But wait, it gets even better. Law also found hard evidence of a massive, devastating flood right there at Hastinapur, which is exactly how the epic says the city was destroyed. Coincidence? But of all the lost cities, there's one that captures the imagination like no other. Krishna's legendary city of Dwarka. The story goes that it was this glorious city on the coast that was completely consumed by the sea. It sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel. But what if it wasn't? And this is where things get truly wild. Marine archaeologists, led by a guy named S.R. Rao, actually went looking for it. And guess what they found? Submerged off the coast, right where the story said it would be? The ruins of a huge, fortified city. We're talking city walls, structures, pottery, and these absolutely gigantic stone anchors. Some of them weighed over 500 kilos. This is solid proof that a major, sophisticated city existed right there, more than 3,500 years ago. So we've looked at the text, we've looked at the ground. What's next? Well, now we look up, because some researchers believe the epic contains a kind of hidden clock, a way to date the war with incredible precision, using clues hidden in the stars. So what is astronomical dating? It's actually a pretty cool concept. The night sky is like a giant, predictable clock. The movements of planets, eclipses, they all happen in predictable patterns. So, if an old text describes a really specific event, say a certain alignment of planets, we can use modern computers to literally rewind the sky and find the exact date when that specific sky pattern occurred. And the Mahabharata is just packed with these kinds of celestial clues, what you might call astronomical fingerprints. It talks about comets, the positions of different planets, and some really, really rare stuff. For example, it mentions a lunar eclipse happening and then a solar eclipse just 13 days later. Now, that's not something you see every day. It's a very specific, searchable event for astronomers. So, problem solved, right? We just run the program and get our date? Ah, if only it were that easy. This is where we run into a bit of a celestial controversy. The problem is, different researchers focus on different fingerprints in the text, and, well, they come up with wildly different dates. We're talking about a range that spans thousands of years. So, while the idea is brilliant, figuring out which clues to trust is still a huge point of debate. Okay, so we've looked at the text, we've dug into the archaeology, we've even looked to the stars. Where does all this leave us? Is it history? Is it myth? The truth is, the more you look, the more it seems like asking fact or fiction might be the wrong question altogether. I really like this idea of a metaphorical reality. That really hits the nail on the head. The epic probably isn't just one or the other. It seems to be working on different levels at the same time. Maybe a real historical event at its core, but wrapped in layers and layers of myth, philosophy, and profound meaning. So let's break it down. The case for historical core is pretty strong, right? Point 1. The geography checks out. These places were real. Point 2. The archaeology connects them. That painted gray ware pottery is like a timestamp linking all the sites. Point 3. We have evidence of real-world disasters like the flood and the rising sea that line up perfectly with the story. And point 4. The astronomical data, while debated, suggests that somebody was watching the sky and taking very detailed notes. But then you have the argument for myth, and you can't just brush this aside. I mean, the story is filled with supernatural stuff, gods walking among humans, divine weapons, miraculous events. And here's the big one. For all the pottery and city walls we found, we have zero direct proof. There's no smoking gun artifact, no stone inscription that says Arjuna was here. Plus, we have to remember, the epic belongs to a tradition called itihasa, which was a way of telling stories that blended history with moral lessons. That was the whole point. So this brings us back to our big question. And maybe, just maybe, the answer isn't a simple choice. What if the Mahabharata isn't history or myth, but something more profound? What if it's the collective memory of a real, devastating war that took place in the Bronze Age? A conflict so important that its memory was passed down for centuries, and over time it was woven into this incredible tapestry of myth and meaning, becoming not just a story of what happened, but a timeless exploration of what it means to be human.